Didn't come over to overhead.
Progress.
Yes.
Now. Should be.
I will ask folks who are joining us online to make sure that they are muted.
Option. Either open. They may not be connected to audio yet. Hopefully it'll work in.
All right. Well. Okay, we'll go because we don't have feedback, so we're fine. All right. How about a roll call? You want to?
Okay, Quinn Daly is asked to be excused. Angelou Millard. Here. Diane Jorsey,
Here.
Timothy Zigmont,
Here.
Ryan Rogan,
Here.
Chairman Beely. Here. Scott Hamel. Steve Biella, alternate.
I don't see him on. I don't see him online. So Steve Biella,
And John Dyken, or alternate.
Present.
Okay. Can someone online please verify that you can hear us now?
You're all muted.
can someone online please verify that you can hear the commission now?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you. All right, seeing that Miss Daly is excused for the evening, I would ask John Dyken, who's the alternate here, to be seated for the entire meeting.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're on to the public hearings, but I think,
Yep, Madam Chair, before we move on to other items on the agenda, for the sake of cleaning the agenda up and being a little more efficient in case people in the audience are here to hear these items, we need to make a motion to continue deliberation of the application for Little House Living LLC prepared by Christopher J. Smith Esquire, Alter and Pearson LLC, submitted pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 8-30G, Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals, the proposed text amendment to create new section 11EE, planned residential infill development, inclusionary multifamily residential use with a housing opportunity or workforce housing component to December 7th. with the emailed consent of the applicant.
Okay. All right, we have a
Second.
motion by Ms. Jorsy, a second by Mr. Zigma. Are there any questions on this? I just have one. It's just for the proposed text, or are we looking at?
I'm going to make a second motion.
Okay, all right. Then staying with the proposed text, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Any? So moved. Okay,
And then the next item that's on our agenda, also to make a motion to continue deliberation of applications of Little House Living LLC prepared by Christopher J. Smith Esquire, Alter and Pearson LLC, submitted pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes, Section 830G, Affordable Housing Land Use Appeals. Item 2, application for site plan approval to permit a 20-unit multifamily residential community on real property known as 1676 Berlin Turnpike, map 22-1, block 114, lot 110. Also to continue deliberation to our meeting of December 7th, 2023, with an emailed consent of the applicant.
Second.
I just want to clarify that that one does not have the
Oh, it does.
extension. It didn't need the extension to be
Okay.
continued, so that's without using extension time.
Thank you.
okay, so do we have to amend the motion or you just did?
I will amend the motion.
Okay, and the second, who agrees?
Second.
Okay, all right. So all those in favor, further discussion? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. All right, so that just basically means that anything, items, A, 1 and 2 under old business has now been moved to the 2nd of December,
7th.
7th of December, excuse me. Thank you. So if you're here for those items, know that we will not be discussing it tonight. All right, yes.
I think Mrs. Bergio has her hand raised, and I'm wondering if it's related to not being able to hear us, but I understand people can hear us now, so. Oh, she took it away.
All right, okay, so everything,
Didn't realize she was still, let me see.
Steve Ellis joined.
oh, Steve Biella is now here. So noted for the record
Joined remotely.
at 7:09.
Mrs. Bergio, can you confirm you can hear us? That just came in 1 minute ago, so. And or anyone else online? I know we got the confirmation from Mr. Kylie a couple of minutes ago.
Okay. Seems everything is working fine. Okay, so,
I'm asking the question in the chat.
okay, I'll hold.
How to make sure.
Yes, I can hear you guys fine.
Thank you, Steve.
I don't see the open.
So if any, well, let me just put in here, if anyone can't hear us, then. I am going to just add if it's okay, because I do realize that a couple of those people are on for that item you just continued the deliberation on. I'm just gonna put that in the chat. That helps. Okay. I think so. People online have told.
Okay.
Can hear us. We do have the, one,
All right, so
yeah.
so we're gonna head into public hearings, and I think the secretary has a call to read. Thank you. Duh.
Town of Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission, notice of public hearings. The Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission will hold public hearings at their regular meeting on Thursday, November 16th, 2023 at 7 PM in the Town Council Chambers, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Interested parties may join the meeting and participate in the public hearings in person or remotely as provided below. A, proposed 11-lot subdivision of Michael Honeyman Builders LLC, property of Dolphin Kensington Group LLC at 0 High Road, MBL 8-3-52-1. The applications and related meeting materials are available at the Planning and Zoning Department, Berlin Town Hall, 240 Kensington Road, Berlin, Connecticut. Dated this third day of November 2023 at Berlin, Connecticut, Brian Rogan, Secretary, Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission, New Britain Herald, legal notices / classified advertising, dates of publication, Monday, November 6th, 2023, and Monday, November 13th, 2023. Posted with Berlin Town Clerk, Friday, November 3rd, 2023.
Okay, thank you, Brian. All right, so the first item is the proposed text amendment of the Planning and Zoning staff to amend an updated section of the Berlin zoning regulations referencing family daycare to include family and group child care homes in accordance with the requirements of subsection B of Public Act 23-142. All right, and I think we all received sort of a copy of what the state is recommending. And so do you want to,
And I provided a staff report that was also distributed with regard to some, background with regard to it. It's included in the second page of the proposed text amendment. The, amendments address, I just want to clarify that the Public Act is seeking to, ensure that where there is residential, single family and multifamily, properties, that the family daycare, the small scale family daycare and the group, small scale group daycare, which they've extended to the number of 12, children, doesn't have hurdles when it comes to, occupying a property and being able to, provide services to the resident. So that's the crux of the reasoning for the Public Act, and our zoning regulations identified the definitions referred to daycare as opposed to childcare. So that's one factor there. It's a matter of the terminology and use of the same definitions and terms, and as well as we provided for up to 6 at the family daycares in residential zones where zoning can't treat it any differently than a single family home, but now that's extended to 12.
are these, because I saw some of the corrections, the amendments that were made to the text. Does that mean that you can have a child daycare center, which say you have 7 children that you have at your home? They're dropped off every morning and picked up in the afternoon.
Yes.
But from what I'm seeing with the adjustment, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the adjustment is saying that you can have up to 12 people living in your home on a 24-hour basis. I mean, I'm no longer seeing this, I'm not seeing this as a daycare facility. I'm seeing the word day struck.
So I believe the day was struck in the legislature, but I believe the day
No.
was struck to provide care. You're a nurse at the hospital and you're working second or third shift. So it would provide for services that are for other shifts and other hours of the day. Or rather, it doesn't exclude the ability to provide those services.
I'm just trying to grapple with what's this state recommending? I also,
That's what I understand. The
that was so you're understanding the facility would only be for day hours and not necessarily for,
no, it could be for hours that accommodate other shifts.
so you could hypothetically have 7 people, because it says here it's, so that's the clarity that I need. It says to not less than 7 nor more than 12 related or unrelated children on a regular basis. And then what's stricken is the portion after that, which reads for a part of a 24 hours in 1 or more days in a week. So which makes me think that it's actually a facility where these related or unrelated children could actually be living there on a 24-hour basis. Oh, good. All right. Somebody clear it up, because I'm just trying to grasp what the change is.
So, the state statute, so it's not a recommendation, it's a statute. And, the definition, under family child care home,
What page?
it doesn't have a page number, but it's like with
It's,
big-
it's like a massive,
the big highlighted page.
okay.
Parenthetical B, identifies, for not less than 3 or more than 12 hours during a 24-hour period where care is given on a regular recurring basis, except that care may be provided in excess of 12 hours, but not more than 72 consecutive hours to accommodate a need for extended care or intermittent short-term overnight care.
This is,
Go ahead.
this is for youth and adults.
This is, it has to meet the definition of the family child care home. With child,
So it could be elder care.
I don't
Let's say
believe so.
someone's gonna go on vacation and their mother needs 24/7.
No, I believe this is only family child care. Child, but let me reread the definitions. I'm sorry, I prepared these before the last meeting and
No, that's okay. As I said, you know,
That paragraph indicates change.
so I'm gonna jump back to Chairman Veely's question. The reason I struck it in the text that I prepared was to create consistency, to refer to the definitions of the statute as opposed to the town.
Yeah.
Clarifying, because if they then modify them, we have to stay compliant. You know, we're required to stay compliant with whatever the statute says, so I referred to their definition instead. I'm seeing that it's child.
I agree that it's child, but child isn't defined. So is the assumption that a child is less than 18 years of age?
I would say school age.
Also, with respect to the hours of operation, there's on the page following the one with all the highlighting, parenthetical 4 has a definition of night care, meaning the care provided for 1 or more hours between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m.
and the state, just for clarification, the state requires us to adopt this legislation to have it applicable townwide,
Yeah,
irregardless of the zone?
so we have to provide proof by next month that the town is taking steps to become compliant with Public Act 23-142.
Would this be a special permit?
No, it's taking away the need for a special permit for those childcare facility or, yeah, childcare facilities between the size of 7 and 12 children. It had been, so as of right, any residential zone could not treat previously. It had been written until this public act. Basically, it says that any, we use the term daycare at the time, regs, that had up to 6 children could not be treated any differently than a single family home. They didn't come to zoning. We didn't know any, they went through their licensing through the state, and the zoning office has no purview. This now is up to 12 children that zoning does not, no longer has that, but it has purview between 6 and 12 children. And our regulations, however, had provisions for permits required between 6 and 12. So we're eliminating that permit requirements between 6 and 12 by the proposed text.
Did you have a
So,
question?
well, so the zoning doesn't have a permitting authority under the statute, the way it's written, but would the town have the ability to require a registration that would be separate from, like, not a zoning thing, but just a registration to know who's doing this as a business?
I believe it's on the business lookout from the state because they are licensed. So we have, that's how we find them.
Well, and so that's one of my other thoughts is if there's a compliance issue at the state level, does the town have any ability to conduct their own, not so much report it, but to conduct their own enforcement if there's an issue? Or is enforcement strictly at the state level?
I think if they had 13, we would be able, that would be.
I'm thinking more serious stuff, not the numbers of kids, but like if there's a safety issue at the property that,
I believe that's always been under the state.
oh,
Unless it's a police matter.
mhm.
Police matters are, are also handled.
So if I decided that I wanted to certify and take on 12 people, or let's say I want to just take on 3, how does the state know how many people are there? And then
They do
who,
inspections.
okay, but who enforces the facilities for, say, up to 12 additional people in the house?
The licensing of the state for childcare.
So,
Childcare needs to is a licensed service.
because I'm just trying to think, if you end up with
Licensed.
12 additional, let's say you end up with 12 people, 24, for 3 or 4 days in a row, additional in your house. I'm just worried about the safeguards for those people. I mean, are they gonna have staff there in case
Yeah,
a
there's
fight breaks
provisions for
out,
what
or,
so in the,
I mean,
in section 19 of the general statutes, there's provisions for how many staff need to be, for the number of children you have, and the requirements of running a daycare or a childcare facility. There's tiers of certifications and numbers based on the number of staff and the number of children of a certain age. I believe the ratios for the infants, and again, it's been a couple weeks since I read through the whole.
yeah,
thing, but I believe it's, they need a higher ratio of staff to child for infants than for toddlers. than for after-school programs. So they kind of tier it up as that goes, and that goes along with the licensing from the state to run the facility.
Yeah, I guess I just,
like childcare.
I'm just trying to envision what this facility would look like.
A
And
for the most part, it would
It's
be
a-
a house. on
yeah,
its own.
but-
There is a provision in here with regard to location. And again, these aren't, I want to make the distinction for everyone's mind between a daycare center. A daycare center, you know, the Y daycare center, the facilities that have multiple rooms and have, is different ball of wax, and that is still in the provisions of the zoning regulations in different sections with requirements to be met. And again, that also has its own special set of requirements. I distinctly remember when we reviewed one a number of years ago, the need for the dishwasher to be a certain type of dishwasher of a certain
well, yeah, I mean, I'm
that they
thinking, it's-
needed. However, the home daycares are, what it is it's sizing up what can be done within the community area, the living areas of town, the residential portions of town. Sorry, I was looking for something to ask about.
anyone else have any questions while Maureen's?
So I guess if you look at the Office of Policy and Management statement on the Public Act, the first bullet summary really, I think wraps up the portion of it. No zoning regulation shall treat any family child care home or group child care home. Note that word home instead of center. Located in a residence and licensed by the Office of Early Childhood, which is the licensing mechanism pursuant to chapters 368A, blah, 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 in a manner different from a single or multifamily dwelling. So it's saying that, town shall not treat it differently. It shall not prohibit the operation in a residential zone of any family child care home or group child care home located in a residence or required any special zoning permit or special zoning exception for such operation. And then this is the compliance was just talking about, that each municipality must submit to OPM not later than December 1st, 2023, and annually thereafter, a sworn statement from the municipality's chief executive officer stating either the municipality's zoning ordinances are in compliance with Public Act 23-142 or the specific time frame within which the municipality will bring the zoning ordinances into compliance.
So in other words, they're telling you this is the way it's gonna be.
Mhm.
I mean, really, that's what the state is saying.
Yeah, so the mandated changes, the proposed amendments seek to accommodate those statutory changes.
Any other questions?
Appreciate
I just have
any,
one.
feedback with regard to whether or not you feel those modifications made accomplish that, or they otherwise should be tweaked. And you have the authority to do that during your deliberation as well.
Is the family part of it, like, cars, what is CARCC, their homes that they have, like Dr. McIntosh's home and the one next to Ferndale's there, those family homes are
Those are group
group
homes.
homes.
They're
It's a group
different.
home,
That's a different
but
type of
I
facility.
thought I heard a word in group. in
It's
here.
group
Group
child
child care, family or group child care. So is it a group family home or, I mean, that's my question. I don't know. Because if they're not under the regulations either,
Group home is under developmental services,
okay,
so their definitions are different. It's a different license than childcare facility.
And yeah, well, I'm just confused on the family word, family and group child.
Well, so
What's
they're,
the family?
they're defined separately in the state statute. So there's a group child care home is defined. And then family child care home is defined.
What's the difference then? Defined,
Well, group child care home offers or provides a program of supplementary care to not less than 7 or more than 12 related or unrelated children on a regular basis. Or B, that means the definition of a family child care home, except that it operates in a facility other than a home, other than a private family home.
So they don't have to be in a house.
Well, they can't be for the group child care home. It's a facility other than a private family home. Where family child care home would be in a private family home.
Right.
So,
Childcare is in a private family home, and the family childcare, so the difference between family and group. I believe group has existed as the definition previously, and that's where regulations as they've been have had that distinction of up to 6. Family childcare home, family childcare, and the group is 6 or 7 to 12 numbers, not age. So those have been the two distinctions. They've grouped them in, it chunked them by size.
mhm.
Family is up to 6, group is up to 12, and then you have your childcare facilities and centers that are either commercial, a commercial enterprise, or it's a large facility.
If somebody, excuse me, if somebody owns a property and decides to open up a group childcare home, and they decide they need to put an addition onto their house in order to accommodate them, do they need to come before planning and zoning, or the state just writes it off and they can do whatever they want?
As I understand it, that would be simply a building permit to a house in a
Yeah.
residential zone, just like it would be now for a family childcare up to 6 children.
Okay, and there's no special permit. It applies to all the zones.
It says we keep the town
Residential
cannot require
zones.
a
And
special
then
permit.
Residential
That's
zone.
just residential zones.
basically
And
the state taking anything that
And the-
we regulated before away from us. And they're doing that in many of different things. And
yeah, but I
my
think,
feeling is 2 or 3 years from now, the planning commission probably won't be existing because they're gonna do it.
well, the centralized
Or
planning, yeah.
statewide.
Well, it could be, but we're not, I need to ask these questions because I just need to see, is there anything that the commission could suggest to the state or put onto it regarding like the licensure or who's going to monitor, who's going to be responsible? If we get complaints, where do we direct them to?
That would be the office of the early child care. The state.
All right.
office of
My,
early
my
child
fear
care.
is sometimes the state is not so quick to respond to these things. And my fear is that something terrible may happen at one of these places. We can't stop it. And then will the state be held responsible? The liability.
A broad question for, the legality of it. The town would not.
Well,
my opinion, of course, I'm not a lawyer, but
well,
this is something that's licensed if
Yeah.
you're going, I'm trying to think of something. that
no, I'm just, well, you hear where,
Too.
you hear where I'm coming
But
from.
there's lots of businesses that have license requirements.
Yes,
So let's
And
let's go with
insurance.
a liquor permit.
yeah,
Someone is not in compliance with their liquor rules with regard to closing at the hour they need to close or whatever. Liquor control is the licensing agency, and they would come in
okay,
and do their enforcement action that they're, are charged with doing. Same as
The same as,
a nail salon is licensed.
Yeah,
And if they are not operating in a clean and safe manner, the health district comes in, they're licensed through the health district, their location, you know, whatever. is
I just-
approved by zoning,
yeah, I,
but their operation is licensed with the state.
yeah.
So I guess that would be the best way to put it. The
Yeah.
operation of the facility is something that is handled through the licensing agent.
I just want to make sure that if the state is going to assume responsibility for this, it has to be 150%. And this is, the town will not be liable should something terrible happen at one of those facilities, because you just never know. You know, I mean, especially if you're putting 12 unrelated people together, you just don't know. It's a crazy world we live in, so we have to kind of protect ourselves. But
I worry about, I think the same way is like schools, the teachers got mandatory reporting if they see something wrong. You know, this childcare is not going to have mandatory reporting
well,
except to
yeah,
except
John,
parent maybe.
Other place, but
Commissioner Dyken, did you have something that you?
Employees have
Because you have a
mandatory
chance to
reporting.
talk now.
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Maureen, so it's fair to say that the local functions remain intact, building, health, so forth. It's simply in zoning enforcement, but the operation is regulated through the state, however that mechanism functions. So 90% of the local functions are still intact.
yeah, the.
I mean, give or take.
It's a little, it boils down to basically the location
Okay,
and the fact that an operator could locate in the residential areas or the, if you read at least one of these explanations from the state, that was handed out, I believe had something, you know, to facilitate communities being able to have access to childcare.
so it's like an automatic permitted use now,
Yes, as of right.
as
So
of
it's
right.
changing it to an under these parameters, to an as of right use,
Great,
under the parameters as defined in the statute.
thank you, Maureen.
You have
I
something?
thought of that.
yeah, just,
That's good.
There you go.
Clarifies it for me.
Maureen, on the proposed text amendment, the very bottom of the page, line item G. It says group daycare homes. I think that I think it was intended to have that be group child care homes to be consistent with the other modifications.
Thank you.
Good catch.
And it is public hearing.
So if you were inclined to approve, I would suggest a motion.
Okay.
Well, we're in public.
We're still in
hearing,
public
so-
hearing, so I'm gonna
But at the time.
scoop
you-
out to the public.
You got to that.
Yeah. All right, this is public hearing, as I've been reminded. So is there anyone here from the public who wishes to address this item, either for or against it with the commission? Any thoughts or concerns? Turning online, is there anyone who wishes to address the commission regarding this application or this? Okay, so coming back to the commission, any other last questions? Okay.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, motion to close the public hearings made by Ms. Jorsey,
Second,
second by Mr. Zigmont for the discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, so moved. Okay. Second item, proposed text amendments of the planning and zoning staff at the direction of the Planning and Zoning Commission to the Berlin zoning regulations for a 22 lot division, dimensions and subdivision regulations 53. Lots to clarify application of the building square requirements. Has everyone had a chance to look at this? Any thoughts on this?
As a point of order.
Yes,
Like to point out that the commission has discussed this at a couple of previous meetings and provided direction to the to staff to work on proposed text amendment, and this is the manner in which we crafted it and proposed it, and with our understanding of the direction given by the commission. So I wanted on
Okay,
the record that there are previous meetings where there's content.
all right.
Well, and that the intention is to provide clarification.
And yes, and the intention was to provide clarification to the text, which appears identical in the zoning regulation and the subdivision regulation. So Amendment 1 and Amendment 2 are identical to each other to the best of my ability. I cut and pasted, they should be
Yeah.
identical, but they were identical in each of those regulations. So updating them simultaneously is what is recommended.
All right. Questions from the commission?
No,
No? We're good? Good. Questions from the public? Oh, hi. Oh, we have a taker.
I just want to speak in favor. Steve Judas with the Office of Harry Colson, 876 South Main Street, Lansville. I just think it helps us on this side understand your direction. So I'm in favor of the regulation, the text change.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'll entertain them. We have no other questions.
I'll make
Can
a,
you double check on mine? I really expected some participants with regard to this, so I just
Okay, anyone online?
verify there.
I just want to see if there's anyone online who wishes to comment on the, in the public hearing regarding the proposed text amendments for the clarification of the building square requirements.
I'll check.
All right, no one here. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thank
like I
you.
said, I had, when it was previously scheduled, had understood there would be.
yeah, it's kind of funny, this floating square, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
motion to close the public hearing by Ms. Jorsey, second by Mr. Dyken. And further discussion, all those in favor? Aye, those opposed, so moved. Then we have the subdivision application of Michael Honeyman for 11 lots at MBL 8-3-52-1 on the east side of High Road and Glen Street.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes,
I have previously done work for Mr. Honeyman and I've already discussed this project with him. So I think that it would be ethically appropriate for me to recuse myself.
okay. All right, so Steve Biella, I'm glad you're with us because Mr. Rogan will be recusing himself on this item, so I'll ask you to stand in for him.
No
Or Zoom in
problem.
for him. Okay,
Yes.
terrific.
Yes. Body signal or something like that. I'll be on the hallway.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you, all right. Oh, all right, oh, that's fine, can folks over across the way see it?
Is this the same as
The one online?
when I got? New email plan? Double check what I have because it is online. I do like to share whenever possible.
Sorry. Kind of.
Honestly, if you guys want to move up and reconfigure yourself so you could see the presentation better, we'll give you a minute just to resettle. This way it'll help you out. And if you want to sit in the front row, that's fine. Just don't disturb the papers at the other end. That'd be great.
For the commission's benefit, while everybody's getting settled, those packages on the thing are because the next meeting has substantial amount of materials.
No, fun. She's wrecking my Thanksgiving.
No, it's just not getting delivered after.
No, I don't expect you to be delivering that. All right, thank you. Yeah, we'll pick them up and cart them off on the way home. All right,
So
Not
they're not colored, but this is a copy of sheet C1.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm gonna share the not colored copies, and if I need to unshare.
and if you can, I'm just gonna unravel this.
Absolutely.
All right, I'll find my way. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commission members. For the record, my name is Stephen Judas. I'm with the office of Harry Cole and Son. We're located at 876 South Main Street in Plantsville. Here tonight with me is Mike Honeyman from Honeyman Builders LLC. I handed out some color renderings and a copy of a previously approved development plan for the site that I can put up on the board as well when I get to that point. Our parcel tonight is a 10.7 acre property located on it butts on High Road and Glen Street. High Road is the long portion here, and Glen Street is at this location. It's known as Accessors Map 8-3, Block 52, Lot 1, and it's zoned R15 residential. It's currently owned by Dalton Kensington Group LLC. It's abutted, as I mentioned, by residential homes and High Road to the west. There's a residential home here, and then Glen Street to the east. We have the Mattabesset River and a wetland corridor that kind of runs along the easterly boundary as well. And then there's residential homes to the south, residential properties. The topography of the site basically slopes from High Road in a southeasterly direction towards the wetland corridor. And the parcel contains sanitary sewer improvements that had been installed as part of the previously approved plan, but were never completed. Our proposal tonight is to construct a 11 lot residential subdivision. The lots would all have frontage on High Road. Lot 1, as you can see, it has frontage, but it's designed to be developed off the street with a little bit larger area around that home. These houses will be serviced by public water and public sewer service, and propane would be provided for heat. We're proposing some minor drainage improvements as part of this plan. We have a proposed pipe that connects a drainage discharge that will bring that drainage down past the homes to the open space to the rear. These homes are pretty much all designed as walkout basements. The way the topography works, they'll have a flat front yard and then a walkout basement at the backside towards the rear of the property. We are proposing some reverse berms and drainage swales, kind of biofilter swales. We have one located in this vicinity. We have another one here, and another one over here. We're utilizing those. They're kind of what we call a low impact development, LID type of drainage solution. It provides infiltration and protects the abutting wetland and water course. As part of this application, we're proposing to reserve 4.19 acres of open space. That's the large green area that you see here. This is a pretty large tract, and our proposal is to, allow protection of the river and the water course. Only approximately 1 acre of that is of that open space is wetland, and the rest of it is upland soil. So I know a lot of times you probably see a big piece of open space that gets deeded as open space, but it's mostly wetland. In this case, we have a very large non-wetland open space parcel that we're proposing to deed off as open space. And the open space makes up about 39% of the total parcel area on the site. As I mentioned, this had been approved for a previous development. I want to give you guys an idea of what was originally approved on the property compared to what we're proposing. It's a substantial decrease in development, impervious surfaces, roadways. This had 14 units. It was a condominium detached unit. They're much larger homes. and a lot more pavement, a lot of more grading, a lot more activity, 2 detention basins, right on the edge of the wetlands. So I thought it was, a nice change. So I wanted you to get a look at that. Again, it's something we don't typically see, when we come before you, commissions like yours. So I was happy to bring this and, give you guys a handout. The second sheet or handout is this sheet. So a part of this plan, though, was installed, the sanitary sewer line was installed, a portion of it. We're proposing to utilize that and extend that sanitary system along the back of the property as the sanitary sewer comes in and runs along the rear property lines, and then it goes off the site. So we will utilize that existing system. We will inspect it, clean it as necessary, and extend it where needed. The other thing about the other plan, it really didn't have any open space. So this is a much better direction. As part of our application, we are requesting 2 waivers. Per section 552 oath or 33 of your subdivision regulations for underground utilities. This commission does have the ability to allow us to do overhead services. We're looking for really is the request to allow for overhead electric cable and telephone service from the existing telephone poles and services that run on High Road. We believe that it's consistent with the existing neighborhood. And if you really read the regulation, it really talks about that the subdivider shall install the underground services before the street is paved. So I really believe that this was really intended for new roads and new subdivisions. Obviously, we always want underground utilities on a new road, but we're requesting that we're allowed to do overhead services for these houses. One of the other things that we just want to point out is that the underground services or overhead are really subject to Eversource's kind of whims and desires as to how they want to move. We're trying to avoid a lot of cuts in the road. We do have water service that we have to tie in from the roadway, and we're trying to combine those services at to every 2 lots so we can reduce our cuts to 5 to 6 cuts. The electrical services require considerably more amount of cuts, or we're worried that Eversource will actually just put poles on this side of the road and put more telephone poles down the road, and we don't think that would be really desirable for the neighborhood to have more telephone poles. So from our position, we believe the individual service lines directly from the existing infrastructure is best for the applicant, our neighborhood, and our new homeowners. So we're hoping that you would consider that request. The other request is for sidewalks. As you know, sidewalks are required in the residential zones, but there is some provisions for waiving that request. The town engineer did comment about the possibility of installing curb line if the sidewalks were waived. We do believe that we meet some of the requirements to permit waiving. We don't believe there's any sidewalks within 500 feet of the property. I don't think we're close enough to any of the schools. And we have less than 15 lots proposed on here. So those are the 2, I guess, unusual aspects to our application. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward from a subdivision perspective. We have received comments from town staff. They're relatively minor in nature. We don't see any issues with addressing those comments with revised plans. So that being said, that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions for me or the applicant, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, Commissioner, any questions looking at this plan? Go ahead. Diane. Oops,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Would you clarify the intent of the subdivision as to ownership? Is this going to be a homeowners association type of a setup or individual ownership?
Individual ownership. There are individual lots. It's as of right subdivision, individual lots, individual owners.
And so the open space area, is there, I'm just seeing the access or kind of trying to envision the access from Glen Street with respect to general public access. And wondering if there are plans, I guess, to do any fencing in addition to the berms to kind of assure privacy or security for the houses, or is the berm kind of the delineation?
Berms are really more for stormwater management. They allow the water to infiltrate into the ground before they builds up and goes over the berm towards the wetlands. One of the requests there was a request to install markers along the open space by I believe it was the Conservation Commission was looking for us to mark the open space. We typically wouldn't fence it. Usually the open space would be just lay in its natural state. And, but marking it with markers, signs periodically along the property line to identify where that would be. The open space is open to anybody to use it. I understand you're more thinking about the homeowners.
I'm thinking of the security for the homeowners with, people, just any person having access to the back of their property from the open space area, but
Yes, that would be on the homeowner. If they felt
Yep.
they needed a fence, they'd definitely be able to do that.
Any other questions before I go to the public?
The previous development had residential on the opposite side of the river.
Actually, no, there was a road proposed.
That was a road cut.
Right, so the yellow was
Road.
a road that connected High Street to Glen Street, road to Glen Street.
That was the open space area.
It really wasn't. This is the wetland area, green,
Yeah.
and then this was the river. And then the two detention basins right here. And then there's a sanitary sewer easement that runs through the application there.
For some reason I thought this property went across.
No, yeah. I feel kind of, I just really, I looked at it and I thought to myself, what a lot of curb cuts we have on High Road. And I know it's not a heavily traveled road, that section of it. But I'm also thinking about that poor guy in house number 11. He's kind of like stuck behind. So the guy in 9 and 10 and 8 are going to be watching the guy's backyard in 11. And in respect, he's going to be watching their backyards.
I think that,
Isn't there another way to configure that? Or maybe a shared driveway or something, or?
I think it really Mike's intention was for one of his children to own lot 11. And that was the reason for such a large parcel. It's not uncommon to have lots like this, larger. I think from looking on paper two-dimensionally, and maybe when the houses are first constructed, you'll have that scenario. But once the landscaping is established and property lines are kind of planted the way that each homeowner wants, they'll have sufficient privacy.
Okay. All right, anyone else on the commission? Then I'm gonna go to the public. Is there anyone here who would like to? Yes, okay, well, you have a couple takers, so we're gonna go to this gentleman and then the one to the back. I will ask that you step up, use the microphone. Please state your name and address clearly for the record. And that'll help our recording secretary immensely.
My name is Robert Claypatch, and I live on 999 High Road, which is adjacent to this property. Well, I have one problem, is that the property line's been marked by 3 ribbons tied to a tree. Let me point out. One ribbon is up there, one is here, one is here. 2 road ribbons are on my property. And I talked to Mike. He says he didn't put the ribbons on there. I don't know who did it, but it's not the property line.
Could it have been a delineation by wetlands? Yes. Oh, great. Sure. Go ahead and let's have a chat.
Can you go all the way up to the speakers? Thank you.
The flags are not property line flags. When my survey crew goes out to do their work, they will set random points that we use to locate other items. So we'll go around the property and they will set random, we call them traverse points, and we'll use them just temporarily establish our survey control. So we haven't set any of the property lines out here at this time. If this were to get approved, then part of the approval process and the bonding would require us to set property lines. We know that there is an issue along that question about ownership of property where the old road was, and we made sure that we were conservative with our establishment of that property line. We followed the northernmost portion of that old roadway.
Okay, thank you.
And
Yes,
for the
Maureen.
Record, and, Mr. Giudice, please, I think it's best probably if you stay near the speaker for this. Could you just explain that strip at the bottom and the notation on the site plan with regard to it so that, or the subdivision plan rather, so that that ownership is clear on the record?
Plans, there's a little jog in the
Southerly.
southern property line right at this location, and there's a strip of land in here. There was an old roadway that came through here, and at some point the town abandoned the roadway, and typically when that abandonment happens, the right of way will be divided between the property owners on either side. And we found record of that abandonment. We found mapping of the splits, but there was the 25 feet to the north. My office couldn't verify that we couldn't verify exactly who owned it. So we did not incorporate that piece into our survey. We left it out. And we said, we're not sure. It may be this gentleman's, but I know it's not this gentleman's. So that was that was our way of playing it safe and not including that piece, and but making a notation on our map that the piece is there. We can't verify the ownership of it, but we're not making any claim to it.
Let me interrupt.
Okay,
My name is Dr. Vincent Ringrose. My wife and I own east of the river there. And we had a lot of blowing it back and forth, particularly when the first development was blown more than 50 years ago by the Peace family. And after a lot of hemming and hawing and a lot of negotiating, originally the New Britain Water Company owned Brook all the way from the 5,000 ponds right down into the paper goods pond. They owned it. But that wasn't good because we had developed quite almost by accident. Dr. Chakowski had started it before we ever moved in. It's stocked ground trout in there. And this stream is one of the 4 best wild trout streams in Connecticut. And I know because for 10 years, I was state director of the Fishery Advisory Council up in Hartford. I know a lot about fish. I was almost a fisheries biologist instead of a pediatrician. But the point being, about the property, the old abandoned road coming down off Glen Street, going down to the brook. The town declared that used to be part of Sheldon Street, continuing across Glen and down to the brook and then up to Glen. The town declared it void and gave half of it to us and the clay patches on the south side. We'd be on the north side, and the clay patches got the south side, and across the little gully from us got the other side of it. So the town awarded half of that to us and the other half to the Clapham, half to the clay patches and half to the pieces. All right. That's what happened there. When they went to cut it out, that's different. Something else you should know. Because we wanted to make sure it remained. First October there, we moved in October, and late summer of 1983, I walked down to the brook, down by the bridge. Wait, I gotta tell you. I walked down to the tunnel, and in the shallow water above the tunnel, there were at least a dozen immense brown trout. You should, well, listen, they're in the paper goods pond, and you have Dr. Chutkowski to thank for that, because you remember when he lived down along, he wanted to make everything great, and he stocked brown trout in the brook where the golf course is. That was before it was a golf course. And so eventually they came down to paper goods ponds and ate a lot of small fish and got to be very big ones. And they spawn in the shallow water at the riffles above the tunnel going through Glen Street, all the way up and around to the old bridge on Sheldon Street, to the concrete bridge in the middle of the woods, which is behind him and also behind us. Okay. That's where most of the shock, one of our shockings twice a year for over 20 years, we electroshocked it with the state to see what was there. One year, I kid you not, in September, October, because we did April and September, we had between Glen Street Bridge and there's a little waterfall in the middle of the woods right behind the clay patch house. We had over 300 wild brown trout. I kid you not, 676 feet and 700 feet from the bridge up. About 1,400 feet, we had 300 brown trout, and they're still there. So we wanted to protect that stream, and on this side, on the west side of from where the brook goes up the hill towards the development, we had somewhere in the paper, at least when we got done with them, there was a conservation easement that the people on the Peace side had to honor. And as a matter of fact, it was shortly after we settled it all up and we had this bank and their bank. I remember one of the nice men called me and he said, you know, we got a dead tree that's hanging from one of the building lots onto the so-called conservation area. Can we move that? I said, of course you can. He says, we're afraid we couldn't do anything. So we let him do it. And the point is, but the other thing people should know, and I was at a lecture yesterday in Farmington by the head of the DEEP Forest Division. And they're very concerned about wildlife, and they classify everything as forest here. If you have trees, you got a forest. And they're very concerned about wildlife. And do you know that the kind of wildlife that lives on that bank between the far side of the bridge up to where you guys are building houses, you can't believe what's in there. We see them in the meadow all the time. We have a very healthy coyote pack. We have a very healthy deer herd. We have some bucks down there at times that will scare you. I mean, to see these big 8-pointers dueling in the meadow behind our house on a November day because they've got a small flock of does watching them on the other side of the brook. And they're clashing thing, and you can hear the noise, and they're breaking horns. It's great, but we've got all these deer. We've got bobcats, we've got foxes, raccoons. We have never seen a track or a sign of a bear, but people in the general area have. But the point is, there's an awful lot of wildlife. So if you mess up that bank, not only will you run the risk of erosion and filling in with contamination, washed down with storms and everything into the area where there's a lot of good spawning, but you would remove the habitat for the coyotes and deer and all those other people. And if somebody went to the deep and said, look, they're clearing that bank, they don't like the brush, they don't like the little trees, they're taking it all out, they're going to lose all the wood, they lose half the wood. That's where they come into the meadow from there and they go back there from the meadow. So you've got to make sure that they stay away with the brook. I told this nice man on the phone, I think he was, when you come off back your lot, there's a nice ridge there where the sewer goes. Just don't come over the ridge. That ridge is kind of the line.
Yeah.
Leave it alone and.
Yeah, there's a meadow out there. Okay, I think you gotta use the phone. Oh, you got to use the phone. Excuse me, the microphone. Yeah. Yeah, but go ahead.
We talk, yes. Good. That's exactly. That'll work just.
You know, just as an observation, I mean, I know that's earmarked as open space, but shouldn't that really be like conservation? Or just,
You know, I think when we design things like this, there's an open space component that we need to meet that requirement. So we're open to any disposition that the town feels we want to preserve it, whatever.
What Dr. Ringrose said is very important because it's something, believe it or not, I was having a discussion with my husband over dinner and I said, the thing that frightens me so much about growth and development is that it's always nice to see. And it's nice to see new families moving in and stuff. But I've got an awful lot of deer and now I've got a coyote and a couple wolves in my backyard or whatever you want to call them, but we've had the bobcats. But you know, you never saw these years ago because they always had someplace else to be. And as we develop, I think that's why even with the plan of conservation and development, we've become aware that it's their habitat that we're encroaching on and we are really guardians. And it's up to us to try to protect their existence as much as it is for us to be, you know, enjoying ours. Oh, no, I got plenty of deer. They stand in my driveway waiting for me. Unfortunately. All right, but anyway, go ahead.
Let me point out this house. Gonna be looking right at my barn. My concern is whoever buys that house is gonna be complaining to seeing my barn right now.
Where's your barn, sir? I'm sorry. Oh, it's all the way down there. All right. Well, chance, yeah, well,
Dr. Mike, so maybe if they complain, we can put arborvitae's or something.
oh, deer love those. Eat them right up. Yum, yum.
Maybe you should put those in before you put the house up.
Well, I mean, these are all things we'll talk about, but
Another thing, Dr. Ringrose mentioned, when they abandoned a road, they split it in half.
mhm,
Then we did is we worked out an agreement that I didn't buy the other half. We worked out an agreement. I have the other half. So I own the whole road down to the bridge. The Ringrose and I own half the bridge. You know.
all right. Yeah,
The house on lot 11 is really drawn conceptually. It, you know, when someone buys the lot or he's gonna build a house for somebody, we could rotate that house different directions. It doesn't have to face the barn, but if some screening from the barn is helpful, then we would do that as well.
all right. Again, with the public, is there, yes, ma'am, come on up.
Could you just, I just remind that everyone, if you're online, mute yourselves. I'm getting something or.
It looks like maybe I try to keep, I keep turning it off. Okay,
Maybe it's me. You breathing?
forget to, okay. All right, all right. Okay, welcome.
Hi, my name is Lisa Matthews. I live at 143 Winchell Drive, which is just around the bend from this area. I have a statement prepared, and I'd also like to add a few comments that I have in mind just based on the discussion we just had. I believe that the forest on High Road should be left alone as a habitat for wildlife. The landscape has evolved over the past 20 years since the last time a development was proposed. It has gone from being a pasture to now a forest. We now have coyotes, deer, bobcat, and a bear, which I saw just a couple weeks ago, that weren't commonly seen in Kensington in the past as often as they are now, along with trout in the brook, which should be protected. I know that Council on Environmental Quality is aware of the trout in the brook. This area of forest adds to the rural character and charm of Kensington, as it is adjacent to the old horse farm in the Moore Stone House. Our community does not need another development altering the landscape. We have more than enough neighborhoods and McMansions cropping up in recent years, such as McGee Road over by Paper Goods Pond and the neighborhoods going in by Ragged Mountain. Fertilizers from new homes will pollute the brook, which runs into Paper Goods Pond. I believe the town should step up and deny a development in this area and keep it as a habitat for wildlife. And when they were talking about the waterfall just a while ago, because I played back in the woods when I was a kid, and it's true that you never saw the wildlife that you do now, and they literally are running out of space to roam. And the bear, truth be told, because I went down the steps in my garage to the car, and it was a huge bear right in my driveway. And I had been told of people seeing the bears before, and it really scared me. It was that big. So again, they need a place to go. There's just, while yes, there are sometimes benefits from developments and money to be made and what have you. When you take Berlin, they're running out of space, and even over by like Ragged Mountain, that's like all a preserve. There's like a whole neighborhood going up in there, and then the last I walked there, like this weekend, they cut down another lot of trees. But getting back to this area, it's true. I remember the waterfall when we played back there, but we never saw the wildlife that you need now. So I think we need to slow our roll, that we'd have plenty of McMansions coming up in Berlin. This area, because I know people want to, preserve the horse and whatnot. It's such a beautiful area. And I don't think we need like another neighborhood on top of this area. So that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Tom Bosco, 809 High Road. I've had the pleasure of being your neighbors here for many years, and I can definitely support everything you just said about the sacredness of the land that we're talking about here. Now, I owned Bosco Painting for over 40 years, and my sons are now taking it over. But I'm well acquainted with new construction, and it's been my livelihood. And I thank a lot of you builders for helping me support my family. But there's two sides to this. It's going to impact the land and the wildlife. It's also going to impact myself and my neighbors in many ways, having to do with construction, the noise. When will the noise be? There's got a couple things here. I'm going to refer to my notes and go down them pretty quick. And maybe Mike, you're Mike Honeyman. Maybe you'll be the man to clarify some of this for me. Okay. First of all, start dates and completion dates. Can you give me a ballpark on how long this project is going to go on?
Yeah.
At the end. Okay, good. The other thing for the town of Berlin here is I'm wondering about return on the town's sake, return on your investment. You've got 11 houses going in there. The way I look at it, there's probably an increase of 22 cars in the neighborhood now. 22 to 30 kids more in the school system. And from kindergarten through high school, that's gonna put another strain on the town budget, which gets passed on to us. So I'm very concerned about that. And if something should happen during this building project, as we saw down on Farmington Avenue, where we went through a recession in 2008, and you had a building there right across from Tavern on the Green down by the railroad station, where you had the white insul wrap on that building for 10 years until Mark Lovely bought it in 2018. Now that was an eyesore for the town downtown. I've also seen projects abandoned where the neighborhoods had land for animals and the beautiful pasturage, like the old Tyler farm on 177 in Plainville. Somebody dug up the hill, the land there. The banking lending tightened up. And nobody ever fixed it. The place is a mess. Just like before Mr. Honeyman here is gonna want to develop this. I don't know what happened to the last man who went to develop that, but he went there and he messed up that whole area back there, and it was a mess for years until finally the forest regrew. The wildlife is just like amazing. And as far as the brown trout goes that Mr. Ringrose is talking about, I caught one in Paper Goods Pond a few years back, a 19-incher. So we're not making stories up here. This is a precious piece of land and a very nice community we're talking about. And before I sign off here, one thing about those sidewalks you were thinking about, there are no sidewalks in our community. It wouldn't fit. It's all rural, all pasturage. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Dawn Spear and I live on 27 Winchell, and a corner of my property leads down to a section of the brook. But I also concur with about the wildlife, just so much wildlife that we would be pushing out, but also the birds. You haven't mentioned birds, and there's hawks, and I just can't believe the number of different species of or types of birds that I've seen. So I'm concerned about the birds, but also the traffic. That upper part of High Road is very narrow and a lot of houses right there deeply settled. And so I'm concerned about the cars. Because I live so close to High Road, I can hear the traffic that comes, how fast cars drive, and I'm concerned about more cars, and especially in that section. And then the other thing is the character, as you've already mentioned. There may not, somebody mentioned that there's not a lot of traffic. It may not be compared to other roads, but there's a lot of foot traffic. It's a very walkable area. It's very settled with people who've lived there a long time and enjoy walking High Road. So I'm just concerned again about more traffic there. Thanks.
And anyone else? Okay, Dr. Ringrose, and then I think, did you have your hand up? Okay, you can go next.
I also know a lot about birds, and my son and I, he works at the local post office. We got involved with a Boy Scout troop here in 1999, and we, with the help of that Boy Scout troop and a young man who became an Eagle Scout because of it, we put up the Bluebird House Trail at the Timberland Golf Course. Any of you down there know that the place is swarming with bluebirds, and that's because we got that thing going. And anybody in the south west corner of Berlin that puts up bluebird houses properly in their backyards will get bluebirds. We have flocks of them. And if you like bluebirds, you can find them in this area we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, and I love bluebirds. Yes, okay, so the lady in the back.
Hi, my name is Dawn Carrier. I live at 853 High Road in Berlin. We are the red house that is on the corner of Glen and High Road. You know, in listening to everything everybody says, there's a lot of great points on that. I do want to say that since we are right next to this major property build, my husband and I do support the project. In comparison to what was being proposed in the original Peace Building project, this development is a significant improvement over that recommendation. So, thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. And anyone else? And then I'm gonna go to online to see if there's anyone who's joining us by the public hearing, would like to comment on this proposal. Is there anyone in Zoom land? I know there's people in Zoom land, but who would like to comment? I don't think we have any takers, right? Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just,
I do have a couple of things, but
Yeah.
I defer
you guys have, no, you guys have been, yeah, because you've been peppered with questions and comments, so.
I have some of them. I probably can't answer, but what I would like to try to address is sometimes I understand that change, development is change, and sometimes change can be difficult and scary. I think that this commission sees a lot of, I assume you see a lot of development plans come before you, and my hope is that when you look at this, you realize that that corridor of open space, it's really developable land. We're proposing to preserve it, as mentioned, from that slope down, because we know that it's sensitive. So, you know, when Mike first came to my office and he said, "This is what I want to do," I said, "Really? We could probably get a lot more out of this." But to his credit, and maybe not to mine, but this is what he wanted to do. He had spoken to the neighbors, and he felt that preservation was important, which in any nature that it needs to be, we thought that open space was a good thing as part of our development. As we know, as you know, and I know, it's an as of right subdivision. There's nothing really crazy here. The zoning is already been set for the neighborhood. So the town, I guess, plan of conservation development has already kind of looked at this and said, this is the proper zone for this for this area. And we've designed it based on your requirements, and we meet or exceed all of those requirements. So I know it's change, but we feel that the plan we put forth is a very good plan, and does respect the environment, respects the habitat, and allows Mr. Honeyman to pursue his development, but also leaves land in forever that will be open space or conservation area that will continue to support the environment, the habitat in that area. Start times and end times, we're proposing to start construction in the spring of 2024. Mike is hoping this will be a 2-year project, but you know, typically he would build a house or two. He's kind of a one-man show. He doesn't have a flurry of things happening at one time. But it is market dependent. Some of these lots may stay undeveloped for 10 or 20 years. You know, it's just the way it goes. Sometimes lots don't get developed right away, but his hope is to get it done within 2 years. 2 to 3. Okay. There was discussions about not developing it. It's a privately owned property. It was for sale. I know Berlin's very aggressive with open space and things like that. I just don't know if this didn't fall into the criteria of what the town is looking for open space pieces, but it was marketable, and that's why Mr. Honeyman moved forward with it. And as far as traffic goes, we don't believe that the single family homes are going to have a negative impact. Again, from your zoning definition for the property, this fits into your requirements for plan of conservation development and zoning and the requirements for the R15 zone. Are there any other questions that were brought up that you think I can answer? I will try.
Let me turn to the commission to see. Questions? I think we have participation from the audience again, so you'd have to come up and state your name and address for the record, please. Sorry. And then we'll come to Maureen to see what
Yes,
concerns.
Tom Bosco, 809 High Road. Just a quick question about weekend work. I know it's necessary sometimes. You know, I've been in the trades, like I say, a long time, and sometimes you got to come in on Saturday and work Saturday morning, short day, just to get caught up, or you have deadlines to meet. One of my concerns is, and I've seen the growing trend on this, is that nobody respects Sunday anymore. I hear chainsaws going, from 7 in the morning on Sundays till 5 at night. And, it does put a strain on the neighborhood when you have all that noise on a Sunday going on. I was wondering if we could at least keep one day a week there.
Yeah,
Honeyman, I appreciate your questions. And relative to noise, because you raised that question earlier, first off, we always abide by the town regulations. I haven't even met with the building department yet, but I suspect Sunday work is not allowed. Typically, we don't have any subs that work on Sunday. We certainly wouldn't be cutting trees on a Sunday. We try to meet with in fact, we've met with all the neighbors that directly abut us here before we even submitted plans to the town because we wanted to understand their hot buttons.
Yeah.
Make sure we do that always with the neighbors we work with. We let them know when things are going on beforehand. So for example, we were clearing trees. We would make sure we let the neighbors know, like you said, young children, animals, etc. So they're not surprised. We try to be good neighbors with our neighbors and make them aware. So, we're in essentially a partnership with them for X period of time. And as Steve mentioned, I would suspect this is going to be at least a 2 to 3 year project. We're not going to be speed building, if you will. Take a lot of pride.
And- all right, just direct it to the commission, so we understand as well what the conversation is. So, yeah.
I was just wondering, Mr. Honeyman, where most of his homes have recently been built, that's all.
Sure. So right now, it's at Avon, Southington.
All right. And-
Simsbury.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Honeyman, but I was under the impression that basically you're looking for the subdivision so that you could develop the lots and perhaps you'd be selling the lots off to different owners.
Generally speaking, we would not sell the lots. We might sell a couple. But
Hmm.
the partner and I would basically, it's sort of our retirement gig. if you will.
Yeah, so if you're selling in building, you're building for,
House.
would you be building houses that are specific to the new homeowner? In other words, would they come to you with a design or are you designing the home?
That's a great question. So what we will typically do and what we would do in this instance is probably have 2 or 3 designs to start with. Then we would meet with folks. And if they wanted things modified, we would. But our plan here is that the homes would probably be 1,800 to 2,600 square feet in size. Where it would probably be colonial capes, perhaps ranches. But and then we would meet with the folks if they wanted something modified. We typically don't want someone else to bring their plans to us. Actually, right now, we generally draw our own plans, although in this instance, we might, take on a plan designer to work with us. And that way we know exactly what's going in the house, how it's being built, try to make sure it's very efficient from use of space, energy, etc. Okay, thank you. That was a good question. Thank you.
And
It's come up a couple of times. The town has a noise ordinance that relates to construction activity. It does provide for construction. I'm not a. All of them. There we go. I knew I wasn't echoing enough. The town has a noise ordinance. It is, administered by the police department, given the fact that that's usually off hours. Police department is available, not town hall, staff. And it does provide for construction 7 days. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but there's an ordinance that the town would require someone to abide by. Mr. Honeyman indicated he generally would work less than that, than the town provides for construction noise.
yeah, you can go ahead, Mr. Hamel.
I'm waiting until you finish.
I have other things as well.
Okay,
And,
ahead.
I don't know if, Mr. Judice, I know he got, our town engineer's comments, which I have to hand out to you. It's an updated, staff comment sheet with the town engineer's comments attached. I think most of them have been addressed or he's, commented on or can be addressed with an approval and as construction happens, but I wanted to make sure that those were distributed and everyone got them. And there are a couple of points I think may want the engineer to comment on.
Thank you.
Was the he asked to make sure that the bioswales talked about, the roof drainage, and explain the stormwater runoff and what preventions can be made between lots 9 and 10. Et cetera. You have the list. I bet you have an answer sheet that I don't have to go through each, but I will if you want me to.
Madam Chair, may I talk about?
By all means, please do.
Yes, we did receive the comments. They were pretty straightforward. The town engineer asked us to explain a little bit more about the bioswales. There's a push by the state and in most states to develop drainage systems without hard piping, really is what they're looking for us to do. They're trying to promote infiltration, evaporation, have stormwater run through grasses and fields and things like that. And so, and that's a little different than what, your typical detention basin where we put all the water into a pond and then it just discharges out. We call a point discharge. So what we've done here is we've laid out these long swales, and they're relatively flat. There's one here, there's another one here, and then there's another one here. And what these do is they take the runoff from the site and it allows the runoff to settle into this grassy area. And under most storms, that water would sit in that area and it will infiltrate. And if the rate of rainfall is too much for the infiltration to occur, it will then spread evenly over the area of that swale. And that allows, we want to avoid point discharges. We want to avoid concentration of discharge of rainwater. And that's what these are designed to do. So it's a little different, but as we get forward, as we move forward, you're going to see a lot more of this coming before you, this type of scenario. And the towns are even required. There's a MS4 requirement where they have to start infiltrating stormwater whenever they do developments, where there's projects on their own, and they're asking the developers to incorporate those types of features into this type of development. It's good for the environment, and they're relatively very low maintenance. Roof drainage, we did not specify. Typically, we would let our roof leaders discharge onto the grass in this situation. I think this whole site flows in this direction, so the more overland flow we can give the water, the better it is before it hits the wetlands and the water course. We did have some questions about the runoff from these lots. We have some grading that pushes the water around this house, but he was concerned about the water coming in this, so we were going to just adjust the grading in this area so the water from these houses goes out into the area, into the swale, so that not a problem for us to address that issue. Again, he talked about water flowing over the property lines. Want to make sure we try to minimize that as much as possible. He asked about natural gas. We are proposing propane. We feel it'll be less cuts in the roadway, and there is no gas there at the moment. There was some initial conversation with the gas company, but just doesn't look like they're willing to come up the road. There's one of the sanitary sewer runs that comes over in this direction is just slightly off pitch. It should be a minimum of 0.4%, and we're at 0.31%. That's a minor change. We will adjust the sanitary sewer line at that location. And then he talks about the multiple trenches across the roadway. Our goal was to combine the water trenches for every 2 houses and have them in one trench, so we can minimize the amount of trenching that we have on the roadway. I believe we'll get away with 5 to 6 trenches, so we'll be very sensitive to the trenching. It's not something that we don't want to do any more than we absolutely have to. So we're going to revise our plan to consolidate those trenches and eliminate as many as we can. Then there was a call out. There's one of the arrows needed to be repositioned. So his comments were easily addressed, and we didn't see any issues with any of them. Do you have any questions about them for me?
Just one. Um, can you tell or explain, the difference in elevation between, lot 11 and the 7, 8, 9, 10 lots? I can't really read the numbers.
Considerable difference, trying to take Mike out here, sorry. So, the roadway in front of lots, we'll say, 8, 9, and 10 is an elevation of, 178 to 180, say 182. And then the rear yards of the houses at, for 8, 9, and 10 are around an elevation of 170. So you got about an 8-foot drop, from the road to the backyards of those houses. And then the garage or the driveway is at 162. So there's another 8-foot drop from the backyards of 8, 9, and 10 to lot 11. 8 foot, yeah. It's considerably lower than the other lots above it. Yes. Yep. 8 and 9 are, at the very, so off the back of the house. On this area, elevation 7. It's close. Property line. 13. Almost 10, really, 8 to 10 feet. Right, the garage at that lot 11 is at elevation 162. I mean, if more drop, I mean, we could probably drop the house on lot 11 lower if thought that was more beneficial. Yeah, that area of lot 11 is very flat.
I mean, I do have a question after sitting up here. I mean, would you ever consider not building number 11?
No,
Just totally omitting it, then the people who live in that area have more open space or, yeah, I mean,
I think that
it's a,
if you wanted, we would build lot 11 up on the street, but
that's what I'm saying. I mean, is it possible to move that?
I think that it's possible to move it, and if someone wanted their house up on the road, we could build the house up on the road, and to be honest with you, we could have easily just showed the house up on the road.
Yeah.
It still could have gotten built in the back. You know, these lots are laid out in a conceptual nature. It's not an interior lot, so there is the right, this house could be put up front. I mean, I think Mike thought that it would be better for the neighbors to the.
Correct. We put it there for several reasons. One was actually privacy for the neighbors.
Yeah.
We put it right on the street. There would be some privacy issues. Secondly, there's an existing access road there right now. So we're pretty much following the grade of the existing access road. And it really leads you to a very natural conclusion if you walk the site, that this would really be a better positioning for the house.
Okay.
That's why we did it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, I got a question on the 2 waivers you're looking for.
Sure.
One is the electrical. All our developments now are required or asked to be underground. And CLP is asking most of them go underground now. And I was wondering why you're talking about the road cuts, I would assume going across, because the poles are on the opposite side of the road.
Well, we have 2. Can I answer that question?
Yep.
Okay. We have 2 concerns about that. One is additional road cuts, because that CLMP will tell us how they want to service. So we're trying to minimize the amount of road cuts, absolutely. So we're concerned about the amount of road cuts. We're also thinking that there's a possibility that CLMP will just put another telephone pole on the side of this side of the road. Every two houses, they're gonna put another telephone pole, and I just think that the street being lined with telephone poles on both sides is not always the nicest scenario. We've had that happen in a subdivision in Southington, and it was just was overwhelming, the amount of telephone poles.
So if you go do road cuts, CLMP, you said two houses, but CLMP probably let you do a box between 4 lots, be less road cuts. The other thing is the sidewalks, that is a heavily walked area. And the homeowners on High Road just said that is a heavily walked area. The road does tend to, cars go down there pretty fast. Because it is no one's around and cars just go as fast as they want to go. But you know, for safety of the people in the area, sidewalks on that side of the road would be beneficial. I also would question, and I don't know the distance, but I would question to the distance to Griswold School. Basically, it's by the way the bird flies, so I don't know what the mileage is between edge of road to Griswold School. You know, and if it is within a mile or just over a mile, we usually request sidewalks because of that reason. And sidewalks are a safety feature. And also it would be a benefit of any sheeting water off the road going onto these properties, because these properties do swell down. And keeping the water up on the road and going to whatever catch basins are on the road or down to the river. So that's some of the questions I have.
Well, maybe Mike can answer some of these. I'll let him talk. He's done more research on that.
Just as it relates to the Griswold School, so from the school to just the tip, if you will, at 853, it's a little bit over a mile.
Yeah.
Certainly, if you went to the midpoint on the property, then it's significant.
Yeah, we just did another development over on West Lane, and it was like 1.2 or something like that away from the school. And I was assuming this is probably close, that same distance. And we required sidewalks in that whole development over there in West Lane because of the school situation.
Yeah, but I think there were sidewalks already there.
Not on West Lane, but the development of the Royal Wicklands development internally, we put sidewalks on one side of the road, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions?
I don't,
June, I can't.
I think you've got to kick me off,
No.
Madam Chair. I think you have to, if she's a full member.
Well, she's come in, but she hasn't been here the whole time to hear the whole
It's up to you.
presentation.
I will yield if necessary.
I will, I mean, that's very kind of you. And I think we'd have to just let you hold for a minute, okay? Yeah, through this application, next go around, you could be seated because you would have listened to the tape or whatever. Okay, okay, Maureen.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the other items I handed out. And we'll add with that Mike had a supplementary comment that Mr. Giudice did comment on with regard to if a sidewalk waiver is granted, then they'd want curbing and Public Works would want curbing. We did have a discussion about sidewalks. And while there are no sidewalks planned in the area, we did feel that is very much the planning decision of the commission to make as to whether or not that's the spot to start in that area for future expansion of sidewalks or not. And the commission really needs to have that as a consideration to make when thinking about the sidewalks. One of the things, that the Conservation Commission on the handout, you also have the staff comments that were the departmental comments, one being from the Conservation Commission or one set of those comments, and talking about the potential of the open space. I am their staff liaison, and they did appreciate that the development was being confined to the portion of the property that's up by the street. And the dedication of open space seemed appropriate and in the appropriate location for them, as well as the protections that could be put in place to protect the down river area, the downslope where you're going into the wetlands and the habitats and that are throughout that area. They did comment on the potential for trail improvements to be, thought about, described, and considered if in that open space area, should the town take that open space. And given the comments heard today, I wonder if that with the wildlife that's there, maybe that may not be a priority at this time to think about trails. Because it is being so heavily utilized by the wildlife in that specific area. But that ties towards the idea of if sidewalks were to be installed to access an open space trail as well, to get people to that trail. So it's kind of a circular think about items and issues. Just for the record, the police chief assured that the sight lines are cleared. Again, we typically will put on subdivision. One of the comments I found is fairly typical of the commission to have is that street trees that are existing are considered prior to being removed and evaluated by the tree warden to determine whether they should be removed by the developer or established for the trees. And I would suggest that the town, should you approve the development, the subdivision rather, that the applicant work with staff to coordinate whether new street trees versus keeping the existing street trees or some of them. Again, the rest of the conservation comments, which are fairly typical, the silt fencing, the signage, which is required at the borders of open space. I want to go back to the comment made about the open space. The Planning and Zoning Commission can, you can specifically ask that for robust language in the dedication of the open space deed that protects the conservation of the land. That can be done, and the acceptance of the open space would not only go, and this is for everyone's benefit, the protection of the dedication of the open space not only goes through the Planning and Zoning Commission, but also to the town council for ultimate acceptance and or whether or not the consideration of offering it to the land trust to maintain instead. So that can be all part of that conversation. Inland Wetlands did determine that no permitting for the subdivision would be required. I think substantially because the open space contains that buffer area, their upland review area. And the fire marshal wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that, or rather that the applicant's aware that lot 11 needs to require, if they do develop it with a long driveway, it needs to comply with the rear lot access, even though it's not a rear lot, because it does have the required frontage to be a fronting lot. It's not a rear lot. I'd like to go back to the other waiver requests. If you give me 1 minute to pull this up. Again, the sidewalks with the waivers should be, it would be preferable for the waivers to be dealt with in for sidewalks with 2 motions, one for the High Road frontage and one for the Glen Street frontage, because the property does have frontage on Glen Street as well, although that will be the open space section. And then with regard to the installation of underground utilities, I had further discussion with the town engineer with regard to that. And we both, generally unilaterally recommend underground utilities and would support is being problematic. That's not something I've seen a lot of yet with regard to that, but we haven't had a lot of new subdivisions. And the town engineer noted that there was going to be construction along the road and trenching, so adding the underground would not, shouldn't create that big a change in expense either. Perhaps if I don't even really want to encourage coming back to the commission. I'd rather it be a decision made as opposed to back. I mean, they would always have the option of coming back to the commission should they ask again later, but I just would not. I generally don't support it both for the maintenance and the safety of storms, etc. We're just trying to get those underground. Let me just had the notes as people spoke. The fertilizers were brought up. I'm sorry, I didn't notice on the plans, but that typically a notation about use of organic fertilizers or other such things can be added to the subdivision plan, and then they would be carried over onto each plot plan and be the responsibility of the owners. So that's something the commission could address if it chooses to. Mr. Giudice dealt with that. The noise ordinance got that. And that's, I think I've wrapped it up.
Just so that I'm fair, Steve Biella is online. Steve, did you have any questions? Because I know you are seated for this.
No, I have nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. And I believe you had your hand up, so because we're still in the public hearing, I'll take this last comment.
Sheila Claybatch, 999 High Road, adjacent property owner. I'm glad you brought up the underground wires. I brought it up to Mike and he said it was very expensive to do, and we have underground wires, but we did them a long time ago when we built, so it must have been free then. I like the idea of the swales or whatever you're calling them to catch the water. Who enforces or watches that? And the reason I'm asking this is when the builder built the houses on Glen Street, which is just south of Sheldon, it was not monitored, and they were somehow that builder allowed, and he brought in a pipe for drainage, but he never brought it down to the brook so that it washed out Sheldon Street and ruined the rest of the bridge. And so I just don't know who monitors that.
Your comment should actually be to us. Do you have an answer for that?
So if the plan shows swaling and or installation of drainage features as the lots are developed, then before their CO, we make sure that those items are in place. And then if it becomes a problem, for instance, where a homeowner, now the lot is bought and somebody owns it and they bring in fill and they move things around. It can be complaint based, and there are times when it is something that the town has purview to go in over with enforcement, and there are other times it's a personal matter between two private property owners. So that's kind of case by
So,
case.
so wait a minute, who monitors that?
It's over the long run, it's not monitored. We make sure that the developer or the builder, before the house is CO'd, has installed those improvements that need to be installed.
We who?
But
We who?
the town, I'm the town employee. I'm sorry, I'm the town planner. So zoning goes out, which is our department, the building inspector, engineering. We each go inspect the property for compliance with the plan
Okay, thank you.
before the CO is issued.
Thank you very much. Actually, there were just two questions or comments that had been made prior. One, just relative to the sidewalks, something I think is very important. If I listened to Tom, I think he was pretty direct saying no sidewalks. Any of the neighbors I've talked to in the area, and like I said, I've talked to all the directly abutting, do not want sidewalks. They don't want sidewalks to nowhere. They don't want McMansions. You know, there's a number of things the neighbors have told me. We've tried to incorporate all that and putting our plans together and maintaining, if you will, the character of the neighborhood. So I think it's just really important that the neighbors do not want them by any means. Relative to the underground utilities, they weren't free when you put them in, but it was direct burial, which is a much less expensive way to go. And unfortunately, that's not allowed anymore. And it's very expensive. We try to keep the houses reasonably priced for people. And considering that there is a fair amount of ledge in that area, you know, the trenching, et cetera, if we were going underground, it's probably going to add an excess, say, of $5,000, $6,000 per house. When you have literally right across the street, all the phone poles currently in place, and other than 3 houses on High Road, I believe every home has overhead wires. In fact, directly across the street on the farm, there are overhead wires going to some of the farm property. So it feels to me like it is reasonably within the character of the neighborhood. And certainly if this were a, let's say, a brand new a traditional subdivision with a cul-de-sac, et cetera, we wouldn't even have a discussion. It would just make pure sense when you're essentially tearing everything up and you're building from scratch to install those items here in an existing neighborhood. And you're really trying to sort of, we've tried to, as Steve has pointed out, not really attack the property, if you will, to be very reasonable with how we designed it, not maximizing it. We're literally, I think 40% of the property we're essentially giving back to the town. And Steve did challenge me when I was in his office and said, well, Mike, you're really not taking, I think we could have had, I don't know, 25 houses or something of that nature. And in our 15 zone, forget about some of the other issues I think the town's dealing with, like with the 830s, you know, we would never do that to a neighborhood. So we've tried to be very reasonable. And part of it is we're also trying to keep it where it's reasonably priced. So in character of the neighborhood and not just tearing things up without an appropriate reason. So thank you very much. I just wanted to make those comments.
All right, thank you. Commission. Yes, Sandra. Miss Millard.
Thank you. I have three items I want to touch on. First, is it the intent to sell all these houses or sell some of them and rent the others? I think that would be you.
Great question. No, we would not rent any houses. So our intent generally, someone asked a question earlier, I believe, if we were going to sell lots, houses, excuse me, we may sell a couple of lots, but generally speaking, we buy the land, we build the homes, and we sell the homes to families.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen, these are probably for you, and this is just an education for me. Open space versus conservation land. Can you explain to me the difference on that and what would be the best to protect this property, not to have trails put into it, to keep it there for the wildlife? Because that would be my preference, is to have it stay pristine for the wildlife as best we can.
So, I was afraid of that question, to be honest. I knew it was coming. I think it's the putting some language into the acceptance of the property that includes the conservation. You know, that's key to make sure deeds are written with the intent of what the intent of the commission is in its acceptance of the open space. You know, that's the crux of it. as far as the trails go, I'm need to think about it a bit because the trails generally within our open space and conservation properties evolve over time and they create trail connections and are designed with the cooperation in many instances of the Connecticut Forest and Parks Association to be responsive to the wildlife and are under the purview of the Conservation Commission. So I want to think about that restriction, and I'm thinking that Attorney Capola has squeaked their way forward and may have a little more detail and better explanation.
Do we know what size that parcel of that open space? Do we know what size that is?
4.6 acres.
4.6,
4.2.
4.2.
Madam Chair, I was gonna say.
Yes.
There's no reason it can't be an open space with a conservation easement over it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
Well,
it
yeah,
Can be conserved.
I just want to protect it.
thank you.
And my last question is, who and how do they enforce the organic fertilizer? I mean, you could say, only use organic, but people just say, okay, that's what you say. All right.
Generally, it's responding to the reports,
Okay.
someone reporting it.
So I have a comment on that. Section 22A54 prevents anybody from regulating pesticides in that way. The Commissioner of Energy and Environmental Protection has exclusive authority.
Can it be written
Oh.
somewhere?
So
But wetlands must have. the
What?
ability.
What's that?
Wetlands have the ability?
No.
like,
I've seen it on the.
So it is somewhat
Yes.
interesting.
well, I think that, I don't think you guys can enforce it, but I think the applicant can volunteer to put it in the deeds on the subdivision map.
Yes.
So.
And I have had those circumstances. Thank you for that point, Steve. I certainly have seen that. I've seen the deeds conveying the lots to the purchaser of the lot. They're indicating they're gonna construct the homes on most of these lots. But when they go to convey title, I have seen deeds actually have particulars with regard to that.
'Cause I would just hate to see that pond or that river get polluted and then you no longer have those brown trout.
I haven't gone fishing yet. Yes, Jeff?
I would, that's what I was gonna suggest, put a conservation easement over the open space. And use our normal conservation easement markers
Yes.
along the thing. We have a standard markers. And they be placed, where the homeowners know where those markers are. And they don't go mowing a little bit, 2 feet every time they mow it, you know?
Before you know it's mowed down.
The commission may recall that some time ago with one of the subdivisions a while back that backed up to conservation area and had the markers you had requested, and the developer actually, I think, volunteered it to install stone markers, kind of a. No, they weren't. They're actually boulders that are formed into a small scale wall at those corners instead of, not a whole wall, but a substantial size, so they can't be just moved up and, and he put a plaque on them. I don't know if you'd want to ask the developer, the commission, the subdivision regulations call by 4x4 posts. And as it has been noted at several meetings, that sometimes those aren't always left in place very long. They are in place before they get their COs. We make sure of that before anyone moves into the property, but that may be something you can ask if the developer is also willing to do something along those lines at the corners of so it would be at the property corners or angle points, same places they put the markers. by regulation.
I'm just gonna have a small comment and then I'll move on. But going back to lot number 11, I guess that's the lot that I'm really hung up on. And, as Commissioner Hamel has noted. And here's just a little proposal, because I know that perhaps you're gonna be hanging on to it for immediate family member to take over. But I would suggest that when you treat lot number 11 as basically a little blessing. So what you can do is move the house up more in line with the ones on the road. Leave that access to the back, and boy, wouldn't it be pretty if you had a little pony farm back there. Or a couple sheep back there. I mean, I don't know, it's just almost as conducive with just having a pathway down. A little barn and.
Yeah,
You never know.
Doesn't have the acreage.
Well, it doesn't have the acreage, yeah, but you have the open space there. I think it would be a treat, especially for the neighbors. Yeah. What? Chickens, okay. Maybe a couple of geese.
Lot 11 is nothing different
Well, I
than,
don't know. I'm looking at this.
a
piece,
rare
I'm
lot
Trying to think.
that we have on plenty of our developments, rare lots of developments. But this one also is, the rear lot's supposed to be double the underlying zone. So it's maybe,
I'm sure that it
right,
is.
but,
Triple, I think.
okay, but this is almost 5 acres. What did you say, 4.1?
I don't know how big is
no,
lot
no,
number 11?
The lot 11, 2 acres, 2-acre lot. So it's a 2-acre lot, so it's 4 times the zoning or more.
Oh, there's 2
yeah,
acres in
so-
11? See yeah, you could have a pony.
Oh, so this house would not be here, back here,
I think the neighbors
be
would
not
like that, wouldn't you like
really
that?
close to those front
Little
houses
barn.
because of the acreage back here.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I say about that lot back there, I would treat it as a rear lot. And just like the fire marshal might have said, that it should be, the driveway should be treated as our long driveways that are 12 foot wide and 3-foot stone aprons on each side. It's a total of 18 feet.
I'm just trying to, because once you put a house back there, then, that property becomes a little bit more restricted. I don't know, maybe want to put a vegetable patch. I don't know. It's just a thought, yes.
Unclear. Sorry, is your concern that it's not in line with the other lots at the road?
No, it's not that. My concern is that it dips down. And so you're gonna have these people that are gonna be in house number 11. And you're gonna have 10, 9, and 8 all looking at them. I mean, they're gonna go out to their backyard. And they're gonna be like in everyone else's backyard. Plus, they're gonna have a disadvantage because they're gonna be in the bowl. As opposed to the person who's up higher. So I mean, the person who's up higher is gonna be looking out over their roof. But the person down in the bowl is gonna be just sort of surrounded by these houses that are gonna be like up on this little hill there. And so that's my concern.
No, and I just wanted to make sure
And you're laughing, I
Well,
know,
you know,
but that's
with
okay, you
affection.
can laugh.
It's with affection because I'm thinking about what you're saying and I'm relating it to the potential person that might live there.
Yeah,
And that
And-
person would they would love to have the neighbors and the interaction. I think it's also important to note that it was a full amount of fill over the years in that area. And there's the grade issue and the privacy issue with the neighbor. So that's why we chose to place it back there. So it was a very deliberate, it's actually much more expensive for us to move the house back, for example, something as simple as the water line. We spoke with the Kensington Fire District, and we have to oversize the water line because of the distance. So there's, a number of things, but it felt like it was the right thing to do, given, all the characteristics of the land, the neighborhood, et cetera. That's why we're doing it. It would be easier for us and cheaper, in a sense, just to put it right at the road. But there's other reasons that make it compelling. Say it probably makes sense to set it back. And that was, and the grade there really lends itself well to placing a house there, making sure your footings are on virgin soil, et cetera. So that was the reasoning behind it. I think your point is fair, and that's why I was kind of smiling with affection in terms of, as you were saying it, because I was just thinking of the potential person that might be living there, who, like I said, he'd be thrilled to have a.
Did I
Might
hear-
not be him, but if it is.
I did hear the
Oh, my
potential
phone
person
bar.
might be his son
all
or
I gotta say.
okay.
And he's a
Okay.
character, but I'm just.
Oh,
saying,
he's a
I'm not
character.
gonna Guarantee that, but I just got married, so.
Well,
Oh, okay.
I would actually move the house back towards the open space a little bit more.
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
Away from the other houses, just for that reason, but.
You don't want to scare the critters. All right.
Madam Chair.
Anyone else? Yes.
I have one more question. I think I know where this property is off of High Road. Does it dip down? Does it all go down like that? So are these driveways going to be going up? I think I know where this is and I may be wrong. I've never walked that area.
We've tried to design it so the front yards will be relatively flat. So the driveways may have a little dip to them. But, and then it's gonna be a walkout. So there'll be a dip down a little bit, a couple of feet, and then there'll be an 8-foot drop to the backyards. So we're trying to work with the grade. But we didn't want to build a bunch of houses down in the hole either. Yeah, no, like curb appeal is,
Maureen.
In response to one of the comments with regard to lot 11 and actually any of the lots, the lot is a fronting lot because of the lot width and the lot, the frontage and the lot width up at the front of the property. And once the lot's approved, the subdivision is for approval of the lots themselves. So should there be an occurrence where there's the potential builder, the person building the lot, purchasing the lot, contracting the house wants the lot the house in a different location compliant with the zoning, the zoning officer, the building permit could be issued for a compliant structure. So if there's a restriction to be vetted on the actual location of the house, that would need to be discussed and determined at the subdivision approval, not because you couldn't control it. We don't control, once the subdivision is approved, that lot could stay vacant for 30 years. And if someone comes in to build on it, as long as their building plan complies with the subdivision approval, which in most cases is just the lay of the land, just the geometry, then that's would be approved and without controls. Unlike a rear lot, which does require a specific site plan application to go along with it, that's a special permit, and the location is determined at the time the commission reviews that. This is not a rear lot.
Madam Chair, just if I heard you correctly, you were saying they could put conditions on the lot. Is that?
I think any conditions they want to put on the lot would need to be vetted at this time.
Okay, so I guess I would ask the town attorney, as of right subdivision, is it appropriate to put conditions on one of the lots that meets the requirements?
Well, we're sort of at an interesting stage here
Yeah.
because it seems like there is a willingness to consider whether or not to put it along the road versus putting it in the back of the other. So, I think there's been a discourse back and forth. It's not entirely clear to me where the commission is leaning, but I think that if your client is willing to put it up by the road because the commission, that's something that they could agree to.
I guess,
So I don't think there's a problem with that.
well, I think generally we'd like to have the ability to put the house on the lot where it meets the zoning requirements. So that, like any other lot here, we show them against the road. If someone wants to move them back, they have the right to do that, as long as the house meets your zoning requirements. So I think we would prefer to have the flexibility on lot 11 to, when the homeowner comes, if they want it up on the street, we'll put it up in the street. But if they'd rather have a little farm in the back, we'd like to give them the opportunity to have that farm. Exactly.
No.
Yeah, so for the,
There's no
so for the record,
You could put a wonderful garden, you could have a outbuilding, you could have a nice little estate property on that lot. Yeah.
For the record and for everyone, including potential listeners everywhere, we do have very specific, farming regulations that have minimum lot sizes to, have, animals and including chickens and goats and, I think I heard the word cow earlier,
I
or
meant
ponies.
garden farm. That's all I'm talking about.
So I want to make sure that the keeping of animals, anyone who is looking to keep them realizes they should consult with the zoning regulations and the zoning office prior to adopting.
So I do apologize.
The vegetable garden should be back there for the deer that run in the woods there. You gotta feed them.
Garden at your own risk.
The property to me, does, the way it's laid out, the way the grades are and stuff does go for ranch house, walkout basement type thing, because of the way it laid the property, it goes, it's 8 foot off the road, and it slopes down 8 foot, and then it slopes down another 8 foot. So, the walkout basement is probably perfect for that land. And, if I was a developer, I'd put ranches because they sell a lot faster.
Anything else? Anything else?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Ms. Dorsey, and we have the second by Mr. Hamel. Was Mr. Hamel, right? All right, further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. And with that being said, I want to welcome Ms. Staley back, and and also Mr. Rogan. So with that, I'm going to ask Steve Biella, just for the record, that you will be stepping back, and so will Mr. Dyken. Yeah. And we'll, at least until we have to decide the matter. Okay, yeah, where's my? Okay, so we're continuing on, so we're on into the old business, but item A, 1 and 2 has been continued to December 7th, thank you. And then now we're on to item B, which is under old business, proposed text amendments of planning and zoning staff to amend and update sections of the Berlin zoning regulations referencing family daycare to include family and group childcare homes in accordance with the requirements of subsection B of Public Act 23-142. So we're back where we started from.
May I?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed text amendment of the planning and zoning staff to amend sections of the Berlin zoning regulations referencing family daycare to include family and group childcare homes in accordance with the requirements of subsection B of Public Act 23-142, noting the correction to item G at the bottom of the page to refer to group child care homes.
Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Mr. Rogan. Do we have further discussion on this? I guess we can't have further discussion on it because it's a state mandate and we can't put any overlays on it, which is disappointing. All right, so what, anything else? Okay, so we have the motion, we have a second, so no other discussion, all those in favor? Aye, those opposed, so moved. All right, on to the proposed text amendments of planning and zoning staff at the direction of the Planning and Zoning Commission to the Berlin zoning regulations for A 22, lot dimensions and subdivision regulations 53 lots to clarify application of the building square requirements. And do we have anything on this? Questions or discussion on this?
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Rogan to approve.
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, so moved. Subdivision application of Michael Honeyman for 11 lots at MBL 8-3-52-1 on the east side of High Road and Glen Street. Okay, so
I
we've,
will, Madam Chairwoman, I will recuse myself in line with my prior
oh, yes, I understand. All right, and then we'll also ask Ms. Daly to recuse herself, only because she did not hear the whole application. So we will now reseat Mr. Dyken and reseat Mr. Biella. All right, so we've arrived back. So commissioners, how do we feel about this application?
I think the application is, itself is so much better than the previous application. Remember the application? I'll tell you, I don't know how we passed that, but,
Well, it's geothermal. Anyway.
oh, that's right, with
it was
geothermal, that's
geothermal.
exactly.
No one ever heard of that.
I remember
before,
that.
and it was
No
a
one else remembered
Japanese
that,
New York
yep.
designer.
Yeah.
Anyway, we
But
digress.
the subdivision, I think, is a very good subdivision. I think there should be a conservation easement put on the open space with our standard markers or better than our standard markers, because since there was other ones built that more permanent. And I do believe that it should have underground utilities as recommended by our staff of what his title is, Mike,
Make a hurry.
engineer. And being so close to the schools like we did on what's the street? West Lane. It was 1.2 miles away from the school. We decided on there to not do both sides of the road during in that development, but we decided at least one side of the road. I think I've been on this road, and of course, I've lived here all my life, but it is a highly walked road. So safety concerns are mine, is with the sidewalks and schools, our zoning things do say 1 mile. And we have been, if it's just a little over 1 mile, we've been putting the sidewalks in. I'll quote a planner from years back. It's another piece of this puzzle, because all the sidewalks do eventually hook up to each other eventually. And we do that by our sidewalk monies that we get every year from the state. So I make a motion to approve with those conditions.
May I add something?
Yes, I'm sorry, who said that?
Can we add something
I didn't say
regarding,
Elizabeth.
regarding the organic?
Wait, we
Oh,
have to do the waivers differently,
So
The
each
request-
waiver needs to be voted on separate.
separately. We
Okay.
can't,
Be dealt with separately.
yeah,
okay,
okay, so I
I'll-
think we have to address the waivers first before we do an overall, look to do an overall improvement or what the conditions.
okay,
of
I'll
approval are.
withdraw,
Is that-
and I'll go
Okay, thank
with
you.
the
So,
the waiver for electrical first. Just that it should be underground. That's all our new subdivisions require. So I make a motion to that effect.
okay, so we have a motion to require the underground wiring. So a denial for the waiver for the overhead.
Denial that waiver. yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion for that. On
I'll
that
second
point,
that.
we have a second for Ms. Jorsey. Do we have further discussion on that motion? So all in favor of denying, yeah,
Waiver.
for this, but it's like a
Denying the
negative,
Request for a waiver.
right? You're denying the request for the waiver for the overhead wires, right?
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor,
Aye.
those opposed? Okay, so moved, all right.
Like a second one that deny the waiver of sidewalks because of safety of people on High Road and closeness to schools.
All right, so we have
So, Maureen recommended that the sidewalk waivers be separate for each street.
East Street.
yeah,
High Road,
because
Glen Street.
So you're talking about,
One waiver for High Road, one waiver for Glen Street.
okay, Glen Street's open space, so I would just say High Road.
okay.
So we
So,
want separate votes.
I'll make a motion that we denied the waiver for sidewalks on High Road section of the development.
all right, so we're just talking about High Road,
Yes.
okay. So do we have a second?
Second.
All right, and that was, oh, Mr. Dyken, okay, great. Further discussion on that. So all those in favor of denying the waiver for the sidewalks on High Road,
Therefore, you're requiring sidewalks.
on High Road,
Mhm.
all right,
Yes.
say aye.
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 Those opposed? Myself,
I then would make a motion.
the denial carries.
Make a motion to to approve the subdivision.
No, wait, you gotta go back to
Approve the
Glen Street.
waiver On Glen Street.
Oh, I thought, okay, I make a motion to waive the sidewalks on Glen Street frontage of the open space.
Okay,
I'll
we have a-
second that.
all right, we have a second by Ms. Jorsey.
Let's deny as well.
No,
That was-
No,
we'll
that's
allow the
Wait.
waiver.
waiver
To
allowed
allow the waiver,
on Glen Street.
all right, on Glen Street. Further discussion, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved, all
Complicated.
right,
Make a
so you don't have
motion
to do,
to grant the subdivision with the conditions of organic fertilizers be allowed in the deed, be restricted to organic fertilizers in the deed. That's the way you gotta say it, I guess. And that the open space part of it have an overlay of the conservation easement and the conservation markers to be placed on that open space, also on the frontage of Glen Street open space part too. So
Mhm.
because that, coming off the road, there should be markers there coming off the road and the ones behind the houses here. And that all staff comments to be included.
And work with staff on coordinating the street trees.
You want to go with street trees, yes. What do you want to follow by street trees?
No, work with staff to coordinate.
Oh,
the
yes,
street
yes, all staff comments to be included, yes.
Just for specificity, that also includes the driveway requirement for, consistent with the rear lot as, commented
Yes.
by the fire marshal.
Yes, the home to the rear lot 11 driveway should be consistent with the rear lot regulations, 10-foot wide driveway, 12-foot wide driveway, and 3 feet side aprons of gravel.
If it ends up having.
If it's in the rear lot, yeah. If it's in the front, you don't need that. Anything else we missed? I don't think so. I would like to make sure that we have been for all other plans, that any conditions to be put on the maps page, or would all conditions be put on the map where it's filed with the map.
So we have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Millard. further discussion?
Yes.
Okay,
I disagree with the requirement for the organic restrictions to be placed on the deeds because organics aren't necessarily less toxic or less persistent in the environment, and I don't see that you have any benefit by having that requirement.
okay.
I would refer our expert here on that. And I would take that off the recommendation if the second says okay.
Okay, is the second agree with that? Okay,
Okay. Well, I guess we can vote on that separately then, huh? I don't
okay,
know.
So they did agree to it. The applicant did agree to do that, to have that condition placed on the deed.
oh,
Sorry, I had stepped away. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
all right, so
But
the applicant
The
is,
issue is, so the jurisdictional issue is that there is a statute which provides that Commissioner of the DEEP does have jurisdiction over the issue. Again, I have seen it where there is an agreement with regard to the use of organics.
okay. So the applicant's agreeing to it, so can we reinstate it back into the motion? I think-
It hasn't been removed.
Oh, I thought he said he was. removing
Well, I don't know, the second didn't remove it.
Agree.
Okay.
The
you
second didn't
agree.
remove it,
Okay,
so
so it's still there.
it's still there right now.
All right. So we still have a second. All right. So further discussion, all those in
I
favor?
actually have a question, a comment.
Yes.
So I don't know if any of us know whether or not, what the effectiveness of organic, is it fertilizer or pesticides that we're talking about?
Fertilizer.
What's the effectiveness? Is it less effective than traditional so that we need more of it? I mean,
Yes.
in the end, are we just contaminating more ultimately with less effective product?
Generally, organics require more frequent applications. They tend to be more expensive for people to use. They're not necessarily less toxic. Arsenic is organic. There's organic herbicides that pose greater risk to applicants than synthetics. So I don't personally believe that organics are better for those reasons.
I support the plan, but I don't necessarily support the organic requirement. So I make a motion to amend the, a motion to remove that condition.
I'll remove it if the second removes it.
Well, no, now you can second mine if you want.
Oh, there's motion out there, right?
I know.
Right. So if we just,
Right.
So the move-in is agreeing to amend his motion.
right.
And the second concurs.
Has
Is agreeing as well. So, no, I know that. I'm saying,
Andre's
do you
second.
agree? So,
Okay,
in that event,
so I'm gonna make my motion without it. I'm gonna take it out. If second says, okay, take it out. And then you can have another motion to put it back in if you want. Okay, so my motion is to approve with the organics in it. I had a second for that, so we can vote.
What?
Wait a minute,
Hold on.
Mr. Zigman, excuse me. I thought you had stated that you were amending.
I did
Move
admit,
it.
I did admit it. I did say that, but with second didn't say okay. So right now, the second's not saying okay, so if we go with the second,
You want to proceed on the original motion. May I suggest that you withdraw your motion?
okay, I'll withdraw my
Restate it,
motion.
please,
And vice
because the
counsel.
clarity needs to be there. Thank you.
oh, they're perfect.
Okay, everything's empty again.
Yes, if he's willing to put it in his deed without us voting on it, is this even something that we need to see discuss at this point? He's already agreed that he's gonna do it. Like, do we need to get the
So I would say yes to that. I do think it's something that, again, I have typically seen because it is a bit of an ordinary
Oddity.
statement that you would see in a deed. It's one of those things, like sometimes there's, there's a whole host of restrictions that sometimes you'll see that are specialized restrictions, if you will, in a deed, and that's what this is. It's not typical.
Probably should be separate.
I mean, you certainly can do that if you want to do that. If you want to do that first and see where everybody is at, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on a condition. So do we have a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. Do you want to discuss something?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead. You have
I,
the second, you have the floor.
My opinion is I don't have real thoughts of either way, tell you the truth. I figure organic is, but I do respect our commissioner that has the knowledge. And I would go with our commissioner that has the knowledge, which I do not have.
Okay. All right. And
Steve doesn't have any comment.
yes, Steve Biella, do you have any comment on this?
No.
Okay, okay, yeah. The only thing that I have to say about it is I think the need for pesticides or fertilizers or whatever is really great in the scheme of things in home ownership. However, as a homeowner myself, I found over the years that I no longer use any of it because weeds, if they're well manicured, are just wonderful to look at and they stay green all summer. And I saved myself probably a fortune on, pesticides and herbicides or other organics. So I mean, I don't know. My feeling is that I can understand if, I don't know, there's such an expense all the way around, no matter what kind of fertilizers or pesticides or stuff you buy.
But by allowing the future homeowners to have the flexibility to make the choice for themselves is one thing. And a point that I would urge you to consider would be unintended consequences of restricting somebody in a way that would prevent them from treating a public health pest. Ticks for one. There's not any organic pesticides that I'm aware of that are particularly effective for tick control. And we've got Lyme disease, we've got the Lone Star tick now that is with the beef allergy, which I hope I never get. So you need to have the ability to treat public health pests in a way that you protect people.
And is that through the organics?
That is not.
It's not.
We do get that. We get tick in our yard for our dogs and it is organic. There's no poisons. The dogs can go out there right after they do.
So I'm not saying that the company that you have does this. I can tell you firsthand that I know of companies that market themselves as organic that slip in a little bit of synthetic. So.
Okay.
My opinion right now is after thinking about this in my mind
Yeah. I know.
and stuff, is that the fertilizer on these lots, with the distance of open space and everything else, my worry was fertilizer draining down to the brook and going somewhere else. Okay. I think the fertilizer will get stopped by this open space if it does go drain that way.
I have a suggestion. for consideration.
Okay,
You could put a mandate on the deed, or a restriction on the deed to require an integrated approach, integrated pest management approach. And that would go based on a least toxic alternative as first choice.
Now, what does that include?
Well, there's industry standards that people would have to assure their service providers follow. That just gets, it's an alternate discussion.
Oh, my.
Complicates things. I think it should
All
just
right.
stay off the deed.
Okay,
yes.
all right, so what's the motion now?
Only thing I just want to point out to you, and this may help you to decide, and something that I think you realize, but just a reminder that once it's on the deed, it's on the deed.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's in perpetuity. So just
Mhm.
keep that in mind.
Okay. So we had the motion to add it as a condition.
Yep.
All right, and we had a second for discussion.
Now we vote.
So now we vote, and the vote is going to be on requiring that it be noted on the deed for the organics. Okay. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
What's the motion is not to have it, right? Or have it,
Is to have it.
Is to have it. The
Require
motion
them to put
was
it in the deeds.
to
have
have
it
it
on the
indeed.
the deed.
Otherwise,
So,
So all those in favor? And those opposed?
aye.
Aye.
Yeah, well, yeah. All right,
Sometimes.
so we have that. Good thought, though. No, it's a good thought. I just, okay.
Okay,
Mr.
now-
Biella, Mr. Biella, were you an aye or a nay?
That was a day.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll make the motion to approve the subdivision.
These poor guys.
Oh, the conservation even be put over the open space,
Mhm.
marked by our standard markers or better. All borders, bordering the open space, at least I guess, north and Lynn Street area. The house behind the house that the
You had last,
Like, it's in the regulations where they have to be placed. on
okay,
each
well,
corner point
okay,
and,
okay.
so that-
As per the regulations. There was nothing else now,
all
right?
staff comments,
Oh, all staff comments to be put in the
tree.
plan, printed on the plan.
including,
And,
as Ms. Juicy pointed out,
Any
in
conditions.
compliance with the fire marshal's comment about the driveway for lot 11,
Yes.
complying with rear lot requirements. And then working with staff on coordination of street trees. It also indicated that. as
Thank
well.
you. I got too far off this thing. Thank you very much. I'll take our council's comments with it.
And that's your
my
motion. Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a second by Ms. Jorsey. Do we have further discussion, questions? Then all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? So moved. All right, there are no problem.
Sorry it took so long.
Yeah. It was a very interesting application. And I'm disappointed I don't have my.
I'm just
pony
so
barn
happy
book.
as happy as not the other application that
Well,
was in there.
No pony from Joni. That's
No
all.
no Joni's ponies.
Yeah.
Let's go get those
Man, I got.
trout,
that's
whatever
right.
they were.
I got,
Harvest,
I
listen.
got a nice fly rod that I gotta dust off at home.
All right,
Yep,
let's go fishing.
excellent. Thank you
I
very
didn't know those fish were there now.
All right. These guys go home happy, all in one day. All right, bye for now. Good night. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. All right. And welcome back. So we welcome back, Mr. Rogan and Miss Daly. And,
I have a few comments,
Few-
planners comments. If we're
Comments. Okay,
You ready? Because we do have an executive session after.
yes, I'll need to call for a little bit of a recess before we go into executive session, please. All right,
Should I go forward?
yes,
Okay,
please.
so just wanted to call to your attention that this week Newport, our TOD project, developer received several awards this week for projects in a variety of towns, but one of them included Berlin's TOD project. So that's exciting and good press for everybody. There's also been good, well, let me finish about them. They also have installed the architectural details that were part of their conditions of approval. They had to be, they were on order. So we have the shutters and the decorative parking lights, et cetera. And they may be, asking for a slight modification for one of the tenants coming in with regard to maybe another, outside cooler or something, but wanted to just put it on everyone's radar. Also, we got some very good press with the ribbon cutting at, Deming Ridge, what was called Deming Ridge, now
Oh,
it's
yeah.
called the Flats at Little River or
Yeah.
something like that. But that also got, I haven't seen it. I was supposed to get it today, but I didn't get it. The front page of the Connecticut section of the Hartford Current. So it was positive press and it had positive comments from the, people in attendance, including from the state. So that was also fun thing, good things. The Rebel Dog application that you had has been withdrawn pending, the applicant worked with the DOT, this is on the Farmington Avenue, and they had some DOT. Which application was that? That was Rebel Dog property that had been distributed, it had been postponed a couple of times. And, so now they've withdrawn it. They have requested that the fee be waived when they do reapply in lieu of the submitted fee, because we didn't process it at all, but we'll bring that back to you at the time that they apply. If we get that new application, at this time, I have no objection. We didn't do much work on it except to tell them it was didn't have the information it needed. As I noted in your meeting package, you had the 2024 calendar. I'll add that to the next agenda. So if everybody just look at the calendar and see if those dates, proposed meeting dates are acceptable, we'll add that to next month's meeting calendar. There was also a Yukon Clear training information in there. The one I noted seemed to be old anyway, but and I think you'd previously gotten it. So I think it was a repeat, and intended for the other commissions we've been distributing them to. As I said earlier, the package was assembled for the next meeting. It's not complete, but it is the maps and the applications. One of the applications, 191 Commerce Street, has new sheets that were brought in today. We didn't pull the old sheets and put the new sheets in. We just added the new sheets to the end. So there's a couple of sheets that need to be substituted in the plan set, but that was easier than, well, we just didn't have time. It came in this afternoon. So that's the package. The reports will most likely, because the maps are all being distributed, be distributed electronically. So please watch for emails. And just a reminder that I do think we have to set a couple of you up still with the town email, but everyone else, it is preferred for you to use the town email to the best of your ability so that your personal emails aren't FOI'd. And we're trying to transition to do that. If you do have a problem with the town email, it would be great if you'd send me an email by text, from your private email, send an email to me. I'll forward it to IT, and please include your phone number in it so that IT can then speak and converse with you by email and directly with regard to it. They asked for that. And then we do have, as you may recall, the meeting of December 21st, which was the second meeting in December, was canceled. We have pending zoning amendment discussions that have been delayed with FHI Studios. You've had extremely long meetings. We haven't pushed that. However, we would like you to think about, and you can even decide at the next meeting, unless you want to decide now, whether or not you'd want to have a special meeting in December. The meeting in January isn't until the third week of January. So that's a long haul between meetings from the first week of December to the third week of January. And we do have, at least 10 pending applications in our office right now. So, just saying there's a good likelihood I'm gonna be pushing for an extra meeting, but I'd like you to consider whether you want to think about one in December or early January.
Thing to settle on.
FHI has suggested that if they were to come in the week of, the 11th is the best for them.
December.
We didn't go into January with.
All right, so December, you have your phone? I don't. All right. Now I have to break my rule and look at my phone. No, I really haven't. No, we try not to.
The 11th is a Monday. You have the rest of the week. It exists. Monday. The 11th is a Monday. It's the. Yeah.
It's the second Monday
Second.
in December. I know, but so having a planning and zoning meeting on the 11th, is that what you're suggesting?
Or on December. Or
That's what I mean.
that week. Whether, you typically are Thursdays, whatever. I will say Tuesday, I have a scheduled Conservation Commission meeting, but we have done that double thing in the past.
December 14th. Well, let's just make it 25th. Everybody's got off.
Everyone's off on this.
All right, do we want to meet on the 14th of December? That's a Thursday.
So here's the calendar on the board if anybody needs to look at it. We should be able to get this room without a problem from those. So none of those, I believe, meet up here. Have a meeting this day.
No, that's not an issue. You wouldn't need to do that. The issue though potentially is to have it so close to the 7th. If there's anything that needs to get done for that next meeting, you're leaving staff with very limited time to do that.
Motion? Motion?
Time is good. 14th. No? No.
I'm not sure I can do 6, but we're selling trees, so I don't know what time I'll be done.
Well.
I could try for 6, but
Well, why don't we, 6:30?
that's better.
6:30 is better.
Yeah,
Alright.
the only one
Let's
there, that's why.
Call it 6:30 and hope that we can all get out of here at a decent time.
40, go.
Does that work for everyone else?
Yeah, 6:30? 6?
6:30.
I'll make a motion to schedule a public, special meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission to meet with FHI on December 14th at 6:30.
And address any additional.
And address other matters as needed.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rogan. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we don't want to hear from you until after. Then
We
need
want to take a
regroup.
break from you.
All right. So what's up
Yeah,
next?
that's
Is there anything else that the planner comments wants to comment on? Okay.
Comments.
So I guess next we have executive session.
Yes.
All right.
So if you could please, when you move to enter executive session, if you could please invite myself, Ms. Giusti, Mr. Chalder, who will be joining, Glenn Chalder from Planometrics, who will be joining by Zoom, and also Mr. Patrick Snow, who is present.
I thought he wasn't available.
Just for the record, that was Mr. Snow indicating that Mr. Georgina, Zach Georgina from Giuliano Associates is also available by Zoom, so we would add him as well.
I will.
So I just want to make note too, for those who are on the current Zoom, that we will not be asking the commission to take any action with regard to any further matters this evening, including those matters that are the subject of executive session. So we are going to conclude the Zoom. The commission will adjourn out of executive session tonight. So there will be no further public business. Mr. Biella, if she has not already, Ms. Juicy will send you the separate Zoom sign-in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And before we go in executive session, I just want to offer us all just a 5-minute break. I just need to do a 5-minute.
I suggest
Yeah.
the motion is
To
Take a 5-minute break.
move
recess or?
into executive session, with commencing after a 5-minute.
Okay. So, all right, so you have the motion, you invited the
I
guests
didn't
or
pay
whatever.
Attention to all the names. So
Okay.
I'll make a motion
Chowdhury.
to take a 5-minute break before we go into executive session to discuss the status of pending litigation, 554 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC and Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission. And to bless you, and to consider whether to convene an executive session to discuss the status of pending litigation of 554 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC versus the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town of Berlin. And 3, discuss the status of pending litigation of Little House Living LLC versus Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission and the Town of Berlin, and possible action relating to same, and to consider whether to convene an executive session to discuss the status of the pending litigation of Little House Living LLC versus Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission and the Town of Berlin, and that we invite Jennifer Coppola, Maureen Giusti, Glenn Chalder, Mr. Snow, and
Zach Georgina
to be present.
And that is for the matter of 1676 Berlin Turnpike, again, Little House Living LLC versus the Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission only. So they will exit the executive session prior to our discussion of 554 Berlin Turnpike Associates LLC versus Berlin Planning and Zoning Commission. And again, for the members of the public that are on Zoom, this with the action on this motion, this will conclude the regular Zoom for tonight's meeting, because they will be going into executive session and will not take any action coming out of executive session, only to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Ogun. Do we have further discussion? Then all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? So moved. All right, we'll see you in 5 minutes.